It had been a morning of art. Katie discovered that when you paint with a lot of colors, it's important to keep the brushes separate. Orbie found out that it isn't very easy to draw a straight line, and they both learned that crayons, pencils, markers, and paints all work together to make your picture beautiful. As Katie painted, Orbie opened up the clay container and began to make an animal shape with the clay. The clay was pretty messy, and some did land on the end of his nose, but he didn't notice. Orbie was trying to find out what animal wanted to come out of the clay. Soon it was obvious that it was a hippopotamus. He had big eyes and fat legs, and Orbie was very pleased with it. He showed it to Katie, who giggled and said it was terrific. Mom was in the kitchen making a dessert for dinner when Orbie walked in with his sculpture of the hippopotamus. She was very impressed with what he had done. When Dad walked in the door with groceries, he had to put them down. He was so impressed with Orbie's sculpture. Mom and Dad told Orbie that he was growing up to be a real artist, and Orbie felt wonderful. Katie was a good painter, and he loved having something special that he was good at. Mom picked up the hippopotamus and told Orbie that he should show it to Vincent. Vincent was a professional sculptor. He would surely love to see Orbie's work. Well, it didn't take Orbie more than 6 seconds to get his snowsuit, boots, and mitts on. Mom put the hippo in a plastic bag, and he was off. When Vincent opened the door, he invited Orbie in. Orbie held up the hippo for Vincent to see. Vincent took it out of the bag and didn't say anything. And for a second, Orbie wasn't sure at all if he liked it. A little ball was forming in Orbie's tummy that was making him feel a lot like his hippopotamus was the dumbest one ever. Dumb to a real artist like Vincent, that is. He swallowed a big gulp, but Orbie was wrong. Vincent put his hand on his chest, and he told Orbie that it was wonderful. Orbie couldn't help it. He jumped up and down and cartwheeled with excitement. Vincent said his hippo was good enough to be in an art gallery. That was hard to do when you're still so very young. And in the middle of a cartwheel, Orbie stopped. He realized he didn't really know what an art gallery was. Vincent smiled and went to the phone. He asked Mom if he and Orbie could go on a quick trip to the art gallery. Mom thought it was a fabulous idea. In no time, Orbie found himself at the huge doors of the art gallery. Inside, Vincent bought 2 tickets, and they each handed one to the man at the beginning of the huge hallway. Orbie and Vincent walked up a long slope and finally found themselves under an enormous glass roof. Orbie looked up and could see the bright blue sky above them. Vincent told Orbie this was called the Great Hall. The whole room was made of windows. Vincent said the room was used for parties and balls to celebrate sculptors and artists of all kinds who have their work in the gallery. Orbie had never seen such a big party room. He imagined himself at a very grand ball, dancing with Katie. Holding Orbie's hand, Vincent walked toward another room with a lot of walls. On the walls hung pictures bigger than Orbie himself. Some were even bigger than Vincent. They were huge. Some were of families dressed in old clothes. Vincent told him these were families like Orbie's from a long time ago. Some of the other pictures were of fields and mountains and animals. Orbie thought that they were all beautiful. In the middle of the floor and throughout the room were all sorts of different sculptures. There were big ones and small ones. Orbie just loved them and hurried from one to the other. Orbie noticed you could sit on little benches at the center of the room. So Vincent sat down and told Orbie to find the sculpture that he loved the best. Orbie knew he had to be careful near the precious things in the gallery. He did a silly tiptoe walk around the room as he looked at the beautiful sculptures. He liked them all. When he turned to look at the last one, Orbie knew that he'd found his favorite. It was a sculpture of a little girl sitting on her mother's lap. This was his favorite because it reminded him of Katie and Mom. Next, Vincent told Orbie that they were going to see other kinds of art. They walked into a room with huge sculptures. They were made of big pieces of metal and glass in strange and beautiful shapes. There were other sculptures, too, made from other materials. Vincent said some were bronze and pewter, some were made from clay and stone. Orbie had never been in a room quite like this one. Next, they found the modern art section, which was really fun. There was a bicycle stuck to a wall, and a foot coming out of a white pasty thing, and paintings of bold colors and curious shapes. Orbie liked all of the modern art. As a matter of fact, he stood up on a bench and made himself into an art piece, just like one of the crazy sculptures in the room. Vincent laughed. Orbie asked if people ever looked for Vincent's work in the gallery. Vincent smiled broadly. He told Orbie he imagined a very few did. He was not a famous artist like the ones whose work was in the gallery. Vincent told him that every artist started out just like Orbie. When they were young, they loved creating things. It was easy for them because they had a talent for it. So when they grew up, they became so good, they were able to sell their creations. Some even got their artwork hung in the gallery. Orbie smiled and looked at the walls. When he pointed out that there wasn't much space left for him, Vincent grinned. As they walked through the great hall again, he told Orbie he imagined they could find a very special place indeed. Orbie imagined his sculpture placed right next to the one of the mother and daughter. And that made him feel very happy. He was going to work hard on his art, and maybe someday, that's exactly where it would be. And do you know, if you like to create art, and you work hard at it, one day you might find one of your art pieces hanging in a gallery too. You never know.
Did you know? All of those really big trucks you might see on the road are very helpful. Some trucks take food to grocery stores. They can carry live animals to farmers. And some trucks even carry the mail. You never know when a great big truck could bring a great big something special just for you.